Hello. This week's topic has to do with encouraging children to pick up new words in different languages. So, why would we do that? Why, as early childhood educators, do we feel like it's an important topic to address in our classrooms of tiny little children? Why should we be teaching other languages? We're, they're still learning English. Well, there are there's many reasons why, and I have found an article from the Harvard Graduate School of Education titled "Multilingual Preschoolers: Young Children Are Increasingly Linguistically Diverse. How can early childhood educators provide a safe, nurturing environment?" Okay, so let me put on my glasses and I will read this to you. It's amazing how young children learn to converse with others. They have to not only internalize grammar and vocabulary, but also develop an understanding of culture, how to take turns in a conversation, who to talk to, and how to narrate a story. For dual language learners, children under the age of 5 with a home language other than English, that process can be complex. These young children must constantly navigate between two languages and cultures while learning the rules of both. And while the benefits of multilingualism are clear, these learners may feel excluded or teased because of their differences, which can hinder their development. As linguistic diversity skyrockets worldwide, early childhood educators need to be prepared to help DLL students meet and overcome these unique challenges. So there are some insights offered from a person named Paola Uccelli, who is an expert in literacy, linguistics, and bilingual education on how to create environments that help DLL students and their families thrive. Early education settings need to be places where DLLs and their families know that they have the right to speak, that they will be heard and responded to with interest and respect, says Uccelli, who is a professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. However, these high quality, culturally and linguistically responsive early childhood programs can be difficult to find. 3 out of 10 children in Head Start programs come from families whose primary language is something other than English, and English learner populations are growing throughout the country. But few early childhood educators are fluent in more than one language, and few receive training in cultural and linguistic diversity. Today's population of DLLs also speaks such an array of languages that even bilingual or bilingual specializing educators may have no context for their students' languages. And despite good intentions, peers and teachers often make assumptions about DLLs and their families based on how they speak, unfairly pegging their intelligence or personalities. So there's 3 key lessons for early educators. To create supportive classrooms, educators need to hold on to several basic ideas about young children who are multilingual. Code mixing, or combining different languages in a single sentence, is not a sign of a developmental delay. Because DLLs are learning 2 languages at once, they often only know certain words in one language. Even as they grow older, some may have strengths in certain languages, for example, being able to pray only in Spanish and read only in English. At early ages, mixing the 2 languages to convey a point is normal. Number 2. Similarly, language development is not delayed because these students are learning more than one language at the same time. Monolingual and bilingual children learn words at the same rate. In fact, bilingualism has been shown to confer advantages. It's related to enhanced executive control, social perspective taking, and meta-linguistic awareness. So meta-linguistic awareness, what that means is that when children learn, let's say the word pen in English, they associate this object with the word pen and they think of it only as pen. And they don't think that this could be called something else. In fact, we read a book a couple of years ago called Frindle. All the fourth graders decided to call all the pencils Frindles. And so that was a hilarious little book that the children thought was really funny. But children who do speak more than one language know that this is not the essence of penness. This is just a tool that happens to be called pen in English, but could be called a totally different word in another language. So that's what that means, that meta-linguistic awareness. Okay, third point. If parents have limited English skills, don't encourage them to use English at home with their children. Rather than boost their children's English, this can instead lead to stilted, superficial conversations that don't provide the serve and return stimulus that aids language development. The most important part of parent-child communication is the quality of the interaction, regardless of the language. So that serve and return stimulus, that's when children say, I goed skiing this weekend. I goed skiing. And then, you as the adult, the mother or the father or the caretaker in whatever way will say, oh, you went skiing, didn't you? Oh, was that fun when you went skiing? It's that small serve and return that creates the understanding of how to speak grammatically correct. Because you didn't goad skiing, you went skiing. And so that's important no matter what language is being spoken at home. And if the parent doesn't understand those finite differences in grammar, obviously they won't be able to return that to the child to help the child in their language acquisition. But they can do it in their home language. So that's what should be encouraged. So those three things are important. Let's just review them. The three key lessons are code mixing is not a sign of developmental delay. Children who are speaking more than one language at home are often ahead of the game because of their bilingualism. And another term to think of that with that is cognitive elasticity. So when they're learning two languages, they're developing more elasticity in the brain. And then number three, encourage parents to speak their home language at home. All right. Fostering inclusivity and growth. Fostering a diversity-rich, inclusive environment is key, Uccelli says. Early learning spaces should create conditions for children to talk about differences and learn to function in a multicultural society. Educators should support English development and value a child's home language simultaneously. So for teachers or caregivers in the classroom, you should be encouraging your children to speak their home languages. Avoid asking them to speak publicly in front of a group. Set up small groups that include both English-only students and dual language learners to ensure inclusion. Explain to the English-only students that the DLL students are still learning and model the way they can communicate effectively with their peers. As the educator, learn a few keywords or phrases in that home language. Or sing songs as a class in those languages too. Don't just use a child's home language for discipline, use it for fun and learning. Provide language-free safe havens, which may provide DLLs with a much needed break. Let children play without talking. They can use blocks, clay, puzzles, etc. They don't always need to be talking. In fact, when children are learning in our new language, such as English, they will definitely be going through a silent period. It's normal, and that is to be expected. Adjust your language to a child's level of English development. If a child is still in early phases of learning English, then keep your messages simple. Repeat the important words and use gestures to support what you're saying. And wherever possible, use that child's home language. Invite multilingual families to volunteer in your classroom and use their home language. Ask them to write labels for items in your classroom in their child's home language. That'll help you too. I know right now during COVID, we can't ask adults to be in our classrooms, but this is for the future when we're back to normal, we hope, knock on wood. So those are a few things from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I also have another article that I'd like to just make a few points on. All right. One of the reasons why we need to make sure that we are inclusive in our language learning as well is because when you create a warm, nurturing environment, one that welcomes children and families, you are sending the message that you value and respect them, their language, and their culture. When your classroom includes the home languages and cultural backgrounds of all the children and families, they see and feel that they are natural and important parts of the classroom. You'll soon notice positive results. Young dual language learners will develop confidence, communicate their thoughts and feelings more readily, concentrate better, and learn more. So that's a really wonderful reason. And then I also wanted to pull some important parts from our book, Building Bridges with Multicultural Picture Books. And we're in chapter 7 this week, which is titled Speaking Other Languages. So let me just read a quick thing here. Your commitment to language learning should be the same as your commitment to other areas of your children's development. This means that your classroom setup, materials, and activities should be designed to help youngsters teach themselves about languages and spoken words through exploratory play. Your classroom should be full of spoken language, dramatic play, mealtime conversations, visiting speakers, oral book reading, storytelling, chanting, language tapes, play telephones, computer software in as many languages as you deem appropriate. And then here's another really great point. You know, we are teaching the spongiest of all sponges, the pre-K children and the early childhood educators' dream, because they just absorb everything. In fact, Dr. Montessori called it the absorbent mind. And one thing that you need to remember is that preschool children are at the language acquisition stage of their development. Between birth and age 6, children acquire an entire native language from scratch. If they are from bilingual or multilingual families, they may acquire more than one language. This natural language acquisition in young children is so commonplace that we tend to take it for granted. We seldom stop to think what a miraculous accomplishment it is to go from having no language to speaking an entire language by age 6 and earlier, really. The years from 2 to 5 are especially crucial in this process. During this period, a child's vocabulary expands from about 250 to 2,000 words, and he learns by himself the rules for putting words together to speak in sentences. There's that back and forth though, right? Because they do learn it on their own. It's not like they're sitting down and doing worksheets in order to learn grammar, but they are being fed the correct grammar rules when you reiterate what they said with correct grammar. Because children are often in early childhood programs during these years, the language environment you provide can have a profound effect on their language development. And I'll leave the rest for you to read and discover in your chapter reading this week. But I hope you are inspired to dive into one or two other languages and provide your students with opportunities to also learn those other languages and make it fun. You can learn it through songs and stories and labeling and games. So many fun ways. All right. I will see you later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.